Welcome back to another episode of Gallant Current Affairs and News Analysis. I have with me about 6 news to deal with today about the ECI selection process. I have told you about this in my later class. There is some new updates about Dalit Christians and they are not getting any reservations. Indian judicial system, but that because there has been an increase in cases of bail, about Maya OS, India, China, like about military talks again today. Then we have PM, Usha schemes and some practice questions. Now first, ECI selection process. In my last class I have told you that the selection process, like there is a committee for the selection of the ECI in India, Election Commission of India. The earlier committee model was that there was Prime Minister in this committee, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India. But the new bill that has been proposed by the Parliament replaced the CGI with the Union Cabinet Minister nominated by the Prime Minister. So in this first committee, this earlier model was created because there was monopoly by the government in the selection process. Like earlier, the government itself used to select the ECI, because of which there was monopoly and unbiased decisions created by the chief election commissioners and other election commissioners. So to avoid this, a new panel, a committee was created by the Supreme Court consisting of CGI, so that there won't be any unbiasedness and the government won't have any monopoly further again. But if you are looking at the new model, when we are replacing the CGI, this Prime Minister and this Union Cabinet Minister appointed by the Prime Minister, they create a majority in the stake of 2:1, which means that we are returning back to the previous model of monopoly. So this new model is actually a violation of the recent judgment that has been given by the Supreme Court. Now this panel, the earlier panel, as I said, creation where there was a Chief Justice of India, this was not a recent recommendation, or this was not just a recommendation of the present Supreme Court, but majority bodies like the Dinesh Goswami Committee in 1950, the Justice Tarkude Committee in 1975 has actually recommended similar models. In the Dinesh Goswami Committee in 1990, they actually wanted to create a separate committee for the selection process and appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. Back then in the 1950s, it was just one member body, there was only Chief Election Commissioner and no Election Commissioner. So that the Parliament in 1990s actually gave out the 17th Constitutional Amendment Bill to create actually a panel for the selection of Chief Election Commissioners and other Election Commissioner. But because of some political turmoil, this bill was not passed. Then moving on to Justice Tarkude Committee in 1975, they have actually recommended this present like old model where there was Chief Justice of India also included. They advised the ECs and CEC to be appointed based on a panel of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and consisting of the Chief Justice of India. This was also reiterated by Dinesh Goswami Committee and also the Law Commission, which was created in 2015. Also, the second ARC report, Administrative Reform Commission, their fourth report, they also stated to add the Law Minister and the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha to this 3-member committee. 3-member committee, also to add this Law Minister and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha to be also added, but none of this recommendation was actually ever taken. Now, moving on, as per the court, like when there is no proper law that has been established by the Parliament, the Supreme Court comes into action and they put out an order. But after this Parliament has enacted a law, this order of the Supreme Court gradually withdraws. But in this case, even after the Parliament bringing out a law, this law is a clear violation of the order that has been given out by the Supreme Court. So also the major thing is the Election Commission of India is a non-partisan, it's an independent body. Now presently the independent body of ECI is actually under the control of the government. The independence of ECI actually has, even in the long run in India, the independence have actually increased the number of voters and electorates, because they have been portraying fair and transparent mode of elections in India. But recently, the Independent VDEM Institute in Sweden has pointed out that our democracy, the democratic election has actually turned into an electoral autocracy, which means that the independence or the ECI has lost its autonomy. Example, we can state that in the run-up election in 2019, the election was actually shifted with 1 month, or it was actually given more time so that the government can formulate more projects so that they might get the favor of the people. So such thing has been actually going on, which means that the ECI or the Election Commission of India is losing its autonomy. And now it's more like electoral autocracy. Now that is what is here. What we need is more new reforms. So these all has been stated by the author. Now moving on to our next topic, Dalit Christians, exclusion by society, church and state. We have known that Dalits has been untouchables, they have been discriminated their entire life. But even after Article 17 has been brought out, these Dalits are still facing repercussions. So because of which the Dalits actually converted into other communities or other caste and religion like Christianity, Buddhism, Sikhism and even Islam, so that they can actually reap the benefits of the other religious community and they can actually move forward and not just remain a socially and backward class. So some section of Dalits have actually converted to Christians, but still even if they have converted to other religion, they still face the repercussion or still they feel that discrimination by the state, by the church. They are not even given adequate reservation. So this bill talks entirely about that. A lot of committees and state governments actually have talked about giving these Dalits, Christians and communities who has converted reservations, but this has not been done. The first such case, K.G. Balakrishnan, he was a former Chief Justice of India. Even he talked about giving to study the possibilities of granting a scheduled caste status, that is giving representations enough for Dalit Christians, Dalits who have actually converted to other religions. The Tamil Nadu Assembly has actually passed a resolution. It's just a resolution. It's not an order, it's such a resolution that they want to amend the Presidential Order of 1915. We will be discussing this in the coming slide, what is the Presidential Order of 1950. Then, Justice Ranganath Mishra Committee also recommended permitting Dalits who have converted into Christianity to avail reservation, to give that Dalits who have also converted into Christianity, give them proper benefits. Also, two-member body which was created by the National Commission for Minorities consisting of Deshpande and Bapna, there is no compelling evidence to justify denying them the scheduled caste status, which means that all these four are talking about granting them the status of scheduled caste to Dalit Christians. There is also a theory of intersectionality. Now, like in the case of Indian government, they just consider one section alone. If I am a Dalit, I am a Dalit. If I become a Dalit Christian or I have some other problems with me or some other repercussions with me, these are not considered. I am a Dalit. If sometimes I may be a Dalit who is a transgender and I am disabled. I have these three categories with me. Now these three categories are not addressed by the single one law of the government, even that of the Supreme Court. Now they actually consider, the problem with them is that they consider the single access framework, a single access of the Dalits alone. But multiplicity comes there, like I am Dalit, I am transgender, I am disabled at the same time. When multiplicity comes there, their laws, now the present laws in India are not actually according to that to address this multiplicity. That is what the theory of intersectionality is talking about. It was created by Kimberley Crenshaw. It allows the understanding of caste with religion and a composite understanding of Dalit Christians as Dalits and as a religious minority group. So there is a multiplicity in it. So it shows the inadequacy. That's presently I am telling that the Indian government, there is an inadequacy because we are still looking in a single axis and not a multiplicity axis. Now, what is included in the Constitutional Order of 1950? So this Constitutional Order of 1950 actually states that by this, it is actually for including in the scheduled caste list. Only Dalits, only Hindus were actually included for recognizing in the scheduled caste, because the Dalits were like they have been under untouchability for so long. So only Hindus were considered to be practicing untouchability. So in this constitutional Supreme Court scheduled caste order of 1950, only Hindus were included. Now again its amendment and then provided for members like Ramdasi, Kabir Pant, etc. to be added, like they were groups of Punjab to be also added in this. Now later in 1952 it was again amended because some Dalits has converted into Sikh. So Dalit Sikh were also given under this, and also in 1990 there some Dalits actually converted to Buddhism. So Dalit Buddhists were also given under this, but Dalit Christians and Dalit Islams, those who convert like this, were never given any such scheduled caste. They were not provided into the scheduled caste. Now these both recommendations, these both amendment came from the recommendation of Kaka Kalkar Commission and the High Powered Panel of Minority Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes in 1983. The Dalit Christians were not included in this presidential order. Now, A single access framework, as I have told you, this is not just practiced by the Indian government alone, but by the Supreme Court also. In a case like Sushai versus the Union of India, the Sushai is a Dalit Christian who has actually converted, and he is a shoemaker. What he wants here is an equal representation that is given to a Hindu. He wants to create a stand, it's like a small stand, so we can actually keep on sell his shoes and all. He wants it par in that of a Mumbai platform there, which is actually provided under the state government. So he wants a reservation that is also given to that of the Hindus. But the Supreme Court stated that his disability, that he is still disabled, has to be proved and just cannot be granted reservation as such. So that is where his identity as a Dalit is downgraded. So because of which he is actually not getting any reservation, and this case has been closed by the Supreme Court. So Dalitless as Sushai was completely ignored on the use of single access framework. Still, he was a Dalit and Christian, there is a multiplicity in that, but still the Supreme Court actually held it to single access framework. So what we can do here is that amend this 1950 Presidential Act, so that we can also add Dalit Christians to it. They are still at disadvantage because they are still excluded by the state, the church and such, so that they still need reservation to come out of the social and economical backwardness. Moving on to the next article, as I have told you, there has been an increase in the bail cases. So there is a platform called Daksh platform, which is a High Court dashboard. It actually gives some of the numbers, like if there is any pendency of cases, how many numbers, the increase in the bail cases. It actually provides us a number, but they actually don't provide a reason why there is increase in number or decrease in number, why there is so much pendency of cases. They don't provide reason, just the numbers they provide. Thus, Daksh, as I told you, is a High Court dashboard. Now, they have actually shown that there is an increasing trend in the number of bails that has been actually applied. Daksh, as I told you, is a think tank focused on law and justice system reforms. Now the bails have actually, presently before COVID and after COVID, if you are taking two scenarios, before COVID there was a bail of about 3.2 lakh to 3.5 lakh, but after COVID this number of bail has increased to about 4 lakh to about 4.3 lakh thereafter. So we have to say that COVID time there was lockdown and there was so many restrictions. So people were bothering within the house, so they actually go on, there was increase in case, and thus there was an increase in the bail application as well. So majority, the article states that the majority case increase is just because of the COVID lockdown alone. Then consequently the number of pending bail cases, the number of bail cases go, thus also the judiciary, even though lockdown there, they couldn't solve every bail cases. So because of which there is increasing pendency in the bail cases as well. Before COVID it was about 50,000 to 65,000. Now after COVID it's ranging to up to 1.3 lakh. Now first we need to know what is a bail and different classifications of a bail. The bail is actually a legal agreement in which the accused can be released from temporarily upon payment of a fine. If you are paying a fine, then you can be temporarily released from a bail, and it is also an essential part of the agreement that the accused provides a guarantee to appear in the court anytime the person is called upon, and this bail granting is actually a constitutional right, not a legal or a fundamental right. It is a constitutional right of the person who is accused, even in a civil or criminal offence. There are three types, like the interim bail, regular bail, anticipatory bail. Interim bail is actually a temporary bail which is granted to a person if he is actually in where the High Court actually calls for documentation. The High Court looks into the documentation and just seeks if the person has to be granted bail or the bail has to be rejected. That is the interim bail. Then regular bail, the person who is already in a police custody, and people who are accused of minor offences like theft or something, even civil or criminal in nature, usually apply for this type of bail. So interim bail is granted by the court. They look into the documentation and such and think, and they come to a conclusion if the bail has to be given or rejected or not. Regular bail is a person when is already in the police custody. Anticipatory bail is that I may have done some crime and I think that the police may arrest me. So I am taking bail beforehand. That is anticipatory bail. This type of bail is granted by the Sessions Court, or the High Court under section 438 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Any person who believes that he or she will be arrested for a non-bailable offence. If the person, like the crime is very heinous, he may be arrested for a non-bailable offence. So beforehand he can actually go and apply for bail even before he is arrested. So that is the 3 type of bails. Now we look into the 4 charts that has been given in the article. So as I have told you, there has been an increase in cases. See here, the pending cases has been increasing about 1.24 lakh, that is the red line pendency of case, and the blue one is a fresh application of bails to about accounting for about 4.3 lakh, which was earlier about 3.2 lakhs and such. There has been an increasing trend of cases. Now if you are looking into the second chart, the bail application filed in high courts as a share of their total caseload, about 30%. Like if you are looking into some high courts, like if you are looking into states like Patna, Jharkhand, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, 30% of the cases account for these kind of bail cases. And the reason to understand this surge becomes a paramount because some of the states, the bail appeal for more than 30% of the caseload. See, you can see Jharkhand here, how where it is standing, about 30%, more than that of Jharkhand, more than 30% is actually the bail cases. It actually decreased in Rajasthan, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh and such. There is an increase in the bail case proportional to other cases. Looking into other chart, for a case of bail to be solved, it just takes 2 to 3 days maximum. But there are still high courts in some places, like they take a lot of time to actually solve a bail case. Especially Jammu and Kashmir, they take about 156 days to solve this bail cases, followed by Odisha 61, Bombay 56, Jharkhand 45. So such like bail has to be solved within few hours, few days. But these high courts of states are taking like 156 days and more. So that talks about like the median number of days for regular application is actually 23. But this is crossed by a majority of states in India. And we don't know why there is actually a lot of time taking place. We just know the numbers. We don't know the reason why. There is actually taking a lot of days to solve issues like this. Delays in resolution have the same effect as denying bail as the accused remains in prison for the duration of their trial. So as I have told you in my last class, there is a lot of under trial population. The delay in granting bail is that the person would be in the police custody or the judicial custody for the long time, and that may be in prison also. So because of which there is a delay in justice as well. This is the data regarding the outcome of bail appeals. The thing is that even though bail is given out, we don't know if the bail was granted or rejected. We don't know in the case of how many bail cases has been resolved, or what the condition around it is unclear. In the case of Bombay, the red shows that these many cases under bail. We don't know what the conclusion order or the outcome of the bail is unclear. See, Bombay has the highest out of it. In close to 80% of disposed bail cases in all of high courts, the outcomes of the bail appeals, whether it was granted or rejected, was either unclear or the outcome was missing. It's majorly account from Bombay. So there are a lot of facts in this. If you get ever question, we will be seeing a similar question at the end on bail. This has been a very recent issue because there is a lot of people still under trial because the bail has been not granted yet. So these are some facts which actually you can use, so there will be boosting the answer, and the examiner might feel that you know this content a lot. Now moving on to our next article, we have the Maya operating system. Now we know about the Windows operating system, we know about the Apple's operating system because we are using it. So Maya operating system is similarly created by India indigenously. It was created within 6 months. Now presently it is only used by the Defence Ministry. The other three services of the armed forces are still not using. The Defence Ministry is currently using this Maya operating system, and for no other purpose this Maya OS is currently in use right now. The Navy has actually cleared the Maya for its use. The Army and the Air Force are still evaluating about using it. The problem is that we are using Windows and everything, not just communal purpose, but the government is also using Windows purpose. Even for very critical infrastructures like our atomic, for DRDO, everybody uses Windows. Now the Windows is an open system. It actually focus on the ease of doing. So because of which there is a lot of cyber threat, because increase in technology, there has been increasing cyber threats and cyber crimes, because of which we need to develop an indigenous system so we can protect the data of the governments. Now the Maya has been developed by the Indian government within 6 months. The aim is to prevent malware attacks by cyber criminals. So because Windows is open-ended, any person can actually put a malware attack or cyber attack, because we have seen recently that critical like AIMS recently where the data was leaked in like 2-3 years before, I guess, where the power grid in Mumbai was attacked by cybers. So all this actually created because it's an open-ended and loose network. So because of which there is an increase, like in the era of there is increasing cyber threats and cyber crimes, India has to indigenously create platforms and operating systems by which we can actually reduce such malware attacks and cyber threats. This new OS will be backed by a protection system called the Chakraview. This endpoint system is also being deployed in the computers that have Maya installed. It's like a protective system, Chakraview. Windows, as I have told you, Windows is a commercial software which is sold by Microsoft for license fee. It is the most widely used OS and it's very easy to install and run. That is why there is a lot of hacking going on within it. The device is powered by Microsoft OS which runs on Windows NT kernel. If you are a computer engineering background, you might know what are this kernel and OS is such, but for others you don't have to ponder much on it. For kernel is actually the core of application. It actually talks about a guidelines or how the device operates. If you do a double click, what are the functions it will happen? If you do a right click, what will happen? So these are some of the kinds, or these are some instructions which are given in the device on how to perform specific tasks. So that is a kernel. So Windows, you can see Windows XP, then Windows 1, now presently we are using Windows 10. With the development of these technologies and operating system, this kernel has also been developing. The kernel is a core operating system within this Windows. Now if you are looking for Windows, they actually use a kind of kernel architecture. If you are actually looking into Apple, they use a hybrid kernel called the XNU that is used by the Apple. If you are looking in the Maya operating system, we actually use Ubuntu, which is in Linux operating system. So don't bother much on kernel, it is just a core of the operating system and it has been developing and evolving with the evolution of the technology and other operating systems. Then global, we should know some global initiatives which has been introduced to counter the cyber attacks. We have the Budapest Convention, this was also called the Council of Europe's Cybercrime Convention. This came into force, it was started in 2001, came into force in 2004 and is the sole legally binding international multilateral treaty on cybercrime. But India is actually not a part of this because as per our intelligence bureau reports and all, Article 32B of the convention actually talks about cross-border sharing of data. Now this will affect the sovereignty of India because we are bound to give any data is crucial for other countries in order to tackle the cybercrime and all. Just because of this provision alone, India has not entered into this treaty. Now UNGA resolution, this has been actually given out by the Russia, countering the use of information and communication technologies for criminal purpose. This was put forth in the United Nations General Assembly. It includes the draft United Nations Convention on cooperating in combating cyber crimes. And also we have an Internet Governance Forum. It brings together all the governments and other private sectors and everyone to counter this cyber crime. So just remember 2 to 3 initiatives, like importantly you should remember the Budapest Convention. We can also use the Internet Government Forum because it's just not based on government but also the other civil organization, private sectors and all. And this UNGA resolution that has been given out by Russia. Now that is it, we are moving to our next topic. India, China to hold the military talks today. So in 2021, you know a lot of issues that has been happening in the LAC border between India and China. So there was at least 7 to 8 points, already 5 points has been located and the like 5 fictional points like Galwan, Pang Toso Lake, north and south points. Then Gogra hotspot and PP15 point has already disengaged. Now the talks is actually going to talk about the Despang plains and Demchok plains. Here it is, the Depsang plain in this area, then we have the Depchong plain at this area. These two area disengagement talks is going to happen today. Now this is the 19th round of talks that is going to happen. And this is like 1 month ahead of the G20 talks and this 1 to 2 weeks ahead of this BRICS talk that is going to happen in Johannesburg. So there is a focus would be on disengagement from Despang and Demchok, the above entitled restoration of the patrolling rights and back to the traditional patrolling points. Back to India's traditional points where they used to patrol and such. So this is something key, like 2-3 points which you need to know. You need not go deep into this. Remember the points Demchok and Depsang plains. Moving on, we have the last topic, Pradhana Mantri Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan PM Usha program. Now before this PM Usha came up, there was a program called the RUSA, which was Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan. It was a centrally sponsored scheme, which means that the center would be providing 60% of the budget and the state would be putting 40% of the budget. If you are looking into Northeast, it will be in the ratio of 90:10. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme. This means aim of the scheme is to improve the higher education institute, to increase the transparency, accessibility, increase the quality. So we will be looking into objectives of this both scheme. Now this RUSA was actually launched in 2013 and this PM Usha is actually kind of renaming this already existing RUSA, because we had the National Education Policy of 2020, which is actually pushing the development of higher educations under these schemes. The first phase I have told you was launched in 2013 and the second was launched in 2018 in the case of this RUSA scheme. Now in the light of the new National Education Policy, the RUSA scheme has been launched as Pradhana Mantri Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, that is PM Usha. Now if you are looking into the objectives of this RUSA, it is to develop the overall quality of the state institutes which is providing higher educations, to promote the autonomy of states, to improve their governance as such, increase the quality, increase the affiliation of the certificates they are getting, correct the regional imbalances in accessing higher education, because recently we have been seeing a trend that there has been a gross enrollment ratios, increasing enrollment ratios both in the case of males and females in the case of higher education. So we have to actually, for that we need to improve the present higher education institute that is available in India. So this both schemes actually work in contributing for the higher education institutes, their quality, their development. So providing adequate opportunities to the disadvantaged people, so the reservation also happens there. So all the section of the people get equal education to access even higher education, not just primary education. But there are some problems associated with these schemes. As I have told you, it's a centrally sponsored scheme. The states, some of the states doesn't even have money. Even majority of the GST is collected by the states. So the states doesn't even have money to put the 40% for the centrally sponsored scheme, because of which majority of states have not actually implemented this NEP and also this PM Usha, because even when there was NEP rolled out, these states were not given enough budgetary allocation yet. And also there was a difference because majority of the states under BJP would actually implement the scheme. But the non-BJP states like Kerala, West Bengal and such, they have already schemes on their own, so they are reluctant to actually implement the central scheme which has been rolled out. Like I have told you, now states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal are among the 14 states which have actually not implemented this, and they have to actually sign an MOU with the central government stating that they will actually roll this out and they will work in implementing this. But these 14 states have actually not signed the MOU with the Union Education Ministry, which mandates the implementation of the NEP 2020 to get funds of almost 13,000 crores for the next 3 years under the centre's flagship program. The MOU is actually being signed to show the willingness of the states to actually participate in the scheme and implement the scheme. So these are some of the problems, because majority are like states have the opposition parties in charge, and also there is a problem of fund allocation, and these states are some states are not willing to sign MOUs with the central government. So these are some of the problems that has been associated with the rolling out of this scheme. Now let's look on to some practice questions. Consider the following statements. When enacted, the Constitution Scheduled Caste Order of 1950 initially provided for recognizing only Hindus as scheduled caste to address the social disability arising out of the practice of untouchability. Justice Rangana Mishra 2007 recommended permitting Dalits who converted to Christianity to avail reservation benefits under the Supreme Court. The Kaka-Kelkar Commission in 1995 recommended to amend 1950 order in order to include the Dalit Christians. So out of the station, first and second statements is correct because I have directly taken it from my slides. The third statement is actually wrong because as per the Kalka Commission, the scheduled caste status was actually given to Dalits who got converted to Buddhism and Sikhism and not Christianity. So only two statements is correct in this case. Moving on to our next question, we have Rashtriya Uchkar Shiksha Abhiyan, as I have told you, RUSA, was a central sector scheme to fund state, UTs, institutions to attain higher education system. The first piece of RUSA was launched in 2013 and later government changed the name to PM Usha. As I have told you, it's not a central sector scheme, it's a centrally sponsored scheme. So only the second statement is correct, but you have to look the keyword here. I have asked you to choose the incorrect answer. So only first one is correct. The first statement is incorrect, so you have to choose the first answer. Now moving on to practice question means we have any readout of the bill must be based on the deep and realistic understanding of the existing problems that forced bail reforms. So this is regarding to the article, so you can actually keep the facts and such. Please prepare an answer and we will be discussing it in tomorrow's class. You can get the PDF from our Telegram channel, Gallant IAS Official. Thank you and have a nice day. We will be seeing again tomorrow. Thank you.